All right, welcome back to Divas and Ducats. Make sure you are subscribing on YouTube and following us on Instagram and Facebook, Divas and Ducats. So, on today's docket, we are kind of getting into a second half of the year review. So, you may have, depending on your job, had like a mid year review where you
Mm.
talk about how things are going, what the opportunities are. Um,
Opportunities for growth.
yeah. So, or you may just, be a person who set some goals at the beginning of the year for various things you wanted to accomplish. And so, really, one of the big things towards successfully completing and meeting a goal is to assess here and
Mm-hmm,
there
mm-hmm.
how it's going, what's going well, what could be going better. And so, we just kind of want to, drop in and give some input on maybe how to look at things and how to some perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, and give a little bit of review of our goals and how we're doing at the going into the. Are we going into the third quarter almost? Jeez, this year
Yeah.
is flying by. Yeah, we
So
are.
yes.
Um. So again, I mean, if you're corporate, you are very familiar with the check-ins and like she said, the mid-year reviews, end of year reviews, and sometimes the things that make a company successful are takeaways you can use for your own life,
Mm-hmm.
and make yourself successful in that vein as well. So I know for me, one of the bigger goals that I had was getting through the wedding. Because it is, if you choose, there are many conversations that we can go on,
Mm-hmm.
about a wedding.
Yeah.
But if you choose to have, a relatively bigger wedding, like not eloping, not going to the courthouse, not having, 20 or less people, weddings can be really expensive. So for me, one of the goals that I had set personally was to make sure that we walked away from our wedding without any debt. Um, and then jointly had a desire that we'd actually enter into our marriage debt free. Wasn't spoken out aloud, prayed about, it was just a desire of my heart, but we will be achieving both of those things. So, very excited about that. But that definitely took, some of my favorite things to do, spreadsheets and budgeting. So, have been very, very diligent about that. And it's really good to have, a partner that is willing to do the work with you. He doesn't necessarily need to see the spreadsheet every week like I do. But having those chats and having those catch-ins, and this is what we need to do, and where we can cut corners, and all the DIYs that have been done to save different money. So for me, that has been an ongoing assessment more than a mid-year
Mm-hmm.
assessment. Just because it's like this, that's one of those goals that will better our future going
Mm-hmm.
into our marriage, but it's a time set goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like an ongoing goal like health, or maintenance. So right when it ends, it's just like, okay, now what's the next goal?
Yeah.
So it wasn't something I wanted to do like a mid-year review on. It has to be, constantly done.
Mm-hmm.
I think also, let me see what other, I mean, that just really has consumed me. I don't know that outside of that, because it's so massive,
Mm-hmm.
for me, that I really set any other goals. Definitely health. I mean, health is always going to be up there, as they say, you're not a spring chicken anymore. So, and you get to a certain age and things just, I mean, as the book said, things fall apart. And so it's very always been very important to me to make sure that my health is prioritized, but making sure that I'm doing the things, not necessarily even weight wise, but just making sure that I am moving
Mm-hmm.
and lifting weights, and so those things. But some of the check-ins that I do with that are obviously, with my doctor,
Mm-hmm.
making sure the numbers are where they need to be if they're not, making sure that if medicines have to come into place, cool. If workouts have to be up, like, so those are kind of some of the check-ins I do with health wise, but that it's also very important. So I think those will kind of be like the top, maybe, I mean, finances and health are probably the most common
Mm-hmm.
check-ins, but for me, like those specific things were just like making sure that my numbers are okay, making sure that my body is moving, and then wedding would probably be, the top three things that I would say for me that I've been checking in and doing for mid-year.
Okay. Cool. I think for me, I had a little bit of a different mindset at the top of the year. So I was coming off of a wedding, and we did save money as we were while we were engaged. We saved money towards the wedding, so we didn't we didn't add to debt that we might have already had
Right,
on the wedding.
right, right, right,
We paid that out of our pockets. So
right.
that was like a thing that it was just like, yeah, we're not gonna charge up cards to pay for this. Um, Now our mindsets are a little different. It's funny. I think about like other things we listen to, like Deval and Kadeen, and like how he was very like, I told her we could have bought a house as opposed to have a wedding, like hindsight and all the things, and
Yeah.
she was still like, nah, I was having that
I
wedding.
will want, yeah,
So like in
yeah.
hindsight, my husband's like, well, we probably should have saved that money and then just allocated it towards investing or debt rather than paying for a wedding. I'm still like, I don't know that I would have not have wanted some form of a wedding.
Yeah.
Like I
Which was gorgeous, by the
thank you. And I'm like,
way.
I can possibly entertain the idea of we could have done something smaller maybe, but we both had big families, so that would have been even harder
It's
to make
hard.
cuts. But I'm like, I don't know that I would have been cool like just not having a wet like
Yeah.
so I'm like, I don't really regret that aspect. And again, I try really hard not to do a lot of hindsight
Could, woulda, coulda, shoulda.
bashing, because the
Yeah.
thing is like more information now in the future
It's
than you knew
life.
then, so there's
That is
no
life.
way to so I really don't tend to do that as much. But I will say, like, going into the top of this year, my mindset was I was a little softer on myself going into this
Mm.
year, just because at the time, like, I had experienced job loss and kind of going through that transition, newly married. So for me, the goals were very much more so rebuilding.
Mm.
And so that looked like for me, like, okay, now that you're in this new position, stocking up, saving more, thankfully, when I experienced job loss, there was savings there to be able to, keep things the same. There weren't payments
Yeah.
missed, like everything, like that is the blessing, that is the testimony that came out of it. Didn't make it less stressful because, of course, we're used to what we're used to.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that's what happens after that. You have to rebuild those stocks. You have to, um, you know, take one step forward, two steps back. Like, you
Yeah.
have to keep climbing the mountain. So for me, a lot of the goals were more so around, reestablishing and being able to start saving again. It looks like assessing, like, okay, now we both have two incomes. What are the things we want to do, like where there is debt? What is our plan for that? And it looks like really just investigating for now, because again, our the mindset being more so around rebuilding this year, but just investigating the possibilities, because we're blessed last year to buy an investment property or land rather. And so understanding, like, what are some of our opportunities for the future, like we have this is something worth holding on to. What can we do when we want to do something? So
Yeah.
just kind of like getting your mind moving, percolating, maybe not making a move right now because that's just not where what we're trying to do. But what are the possibilities,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of starting to prepare for that. What does that look like? What are the things you need to consider, like when you're doing something with land? Is there zoning? Is there,
Yeah.
like, it's like doing
The
that
conversations.
homework,
Yeah.
even though you're not necessarily like
Moving.
pulling the
Yeah.
trigger. And so for me, I will say that, like, I've been proud of the fact, and again, being newly married, having to figure out finance together.
Mm.
And I think we're still navigating that. So I would say, on a scale, if I'm grading myself, since we're doing like I would say we're probably at like a BB minus. There's some things that, not even necessarily habits, just I think you're used to your way of doing things.
Mm.
And I think there's that still kind of thing there that we're trying to figure out. But we do have a plan. We work our plan in terms of, savings, paying bills, paying debts. I mean, we're doing very well as far as how that goes.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
think that's really the main thing I would want to convey to anybody is whatever your plan is, if you're looking at it, if you are working the plan,
Mhm.
like really pay attention to that, because I think that it is very easy to go to the negative sentiment of like, I'm not here yet, or I'm not where maybe you thought you would
Mhm.
be.
Mhm.
There are all the unexpected things that can happen in life, right? But I think when you look at, okay, this is where I am and this is what I have done that positively contributes to where I said I wanted to go. I think that's something to really make sure you um, acknowledge and
Yeah.
are proud of,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I think that I just really wanted to emphasize that, especially this time of the year, because people start getting like frantic and it's towards the end of the year and they feel like just because you're not at that finish line, whatever that is, that it means that all is lost, and it's not, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I just wanted to kind of say that.
Yeah. I love that one, that when you say that you want to do a thing, or um whatever the goal was, the follow up, which one is also therapy because of the language, but in corporate, it makes me think about SMART goals, like saying, I want to do this, and to me, that looks like, right? That gives the steps, that gives the details, but being able to put words to a thing, right? Like not
Mm-hmm.
making it some mammoth thing, but this looks like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because then you can assess those steps, and when you have multiple steps, you can check off some,
Mm-hmm.
remodel some if you need to for some certain objectives, and some be like, that's not serving the goal I thought,
Yeah.
so I think, giving those steps the measuring, make,
Mm-hmm.
that smart, making it measurable, um and being able to articulate what that looks like to you is very important. I think what I find the beauty in, even though it was a hard thing to come off into a brand new marriage and then have to deal with job loss, in us talking about assessing goals and making plans, it was the work that you did before the storm came
Mm-hmm.
that allowed you to be like, no bills were missed,
Yeah.
that allowed you to, be in those places. And Lord, we know that is beneficial and not everybody's story, no matter how much planning. So it's not to say that their grace is not in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not to say that their abundance and blessings were not in there, but planning
Yeah.
is a large part of it, because there are plenty of people that make $200,000 plus and are broke.
Mm-hmm.
Hear me. I am telling you, it is plenty of people, because there is no planning, there is no budgeting, there's no, looking at those things. It's a dollar in and it's a dollar out, and it's gonna leave you broke, whether that's $1 million or
Mm-hmm.
whether that's $25,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I love that, like in real time, even though it's a very devastating circumstance, you were able to see that these conversations in this plan, like, it is why it's so important, right? And it just made me think about like health goals. Like I had a friend that, ended up having a heart attack, and the doctor literally told him, like, the reason that you are alive now is because you run.
Yeah.
You went, like, even thinking about your mom,
Mm-hmm.
when she had her, had to have her bypass, like, it happened because she realized it while she was walking, while she
Yeah.
was exercising, so like the planning and doing the things, and like, you don't know what storm you're preparing for,
Yeah.
and doing those steps and doing those goals. But like, I just keep ticking at them, keep checking at them, um and revamp and remodel you to get rest. Like, that is also
Yeah.
very important. I love that you said you gave yourself grace at the top of the year. Like, it does
Mm-hmm.
not always have to be go, 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 go. That is what leads to strokes and heart attacks. And also, like,
Yeah.
get rest.
Yeah.
Listen to yourself. Give yourself grace. No one,
Mm-hmm.
even a corporation, no one is checking all boxes off that they set every single time, like
Mm-hmm.
there would be no point of me your reviews
Yeah.
if that was the case. So like that would be like one of my big, and talking to myself as well, because I rarely do give myself grace. Give yourself, like, I
Yeah.
did that. You know what I'm saying? You know who's really good at giving you your flowers? Chat GPT. Now, we have different things about why we will use them and why we won't, and that could be a whole nother podcast.
Mm.
But like going through performance reviews, it was funny. Someone in our job like made an agent that
Mm-hmm.
allowed you to like pull in all these things, and it's like, dang, I did all that. You know, sometimes you got to just be like, I did that. You know, I set a goal to work out 3 days a week. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? I didn't hit 3 days a week. I hit 2 days a week, but I did it consistently for 3 months.
Yeah.
Baby, clap it up. You
Mm-hmm.
know? So, like just making sure that you're doing those assessments, and giving yourself grace,
Yeah.
resting, and you know, and checking the, and you know, be honest with yourself. Like, I could have did more. That happens too.
Mm-hmm.
I can do more in this space. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, I saved that, and then once I saved it, I started blowing money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes it's okay to sit for the
Yeah.
goals as well. You know, but just pace yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Pace yourself.
Yeah. I definitely agree with what you said. I think that what helped, now it was, like I said, a little rocky because we had just paid, we wanted to be debt free
Yeah,
for a wedding. We just paid for a wedding. So it's
just.
like, but I do think that having and I do understand in this economy is crazy, but if you can, having, starting with the $1,000 emergency,
Yeah,
if you're not there, start with that. Like, and again, just the baby stepping of things, right? um because then once I had that, it was like, okay, well then build to, people say 3 months, but let's start with, again, because economy, start with the month. What
start.
is a month of your
Right.
expenses, like a month of everything that you have to pay for, having that in the savings, and then building that to 2 3 months. Now ultimately, and again, that's part of one of our rebuilding goals. We want to get to the point, because now our expenses are combined, is like, okay, now that pot should be a little bit bigger because it's two
Two.
of
Yeah.
us. And so one of the goals for later, but again, just kind of chipping at rebuilding, is to have 6 months to a year of our expenses saved up. So that is something that we are, working toward. But again, my mind frame, having come off that, was like, okay, that is zero, that feels 0 to 100. So
Right.
let's
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
step back and
Yeah.
make sure, we got the quarter. You know what I mean? Like, let's do that. Now that there's two of us, and
Yeah.
like we're not having to like be as super lean because there's one person working. And I think that the other thing is just being, to, Melinda's obviously better at saying it than me. Like, the thing of like, but you were fine. Even though in a moment it doesn't feel
Yeah.
fine.
Of
I
course.
think trying to do that for yourself, even if it's looking back on the other side of that. And that's why I was emphasizing to you all, whatever your goals are, looking at the things that you have really survived and made it out of this first half, several months of this year.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on. The world is crazy. You're still here. So if you aren't quite where you want to be, there is still time. And
Mm-hmm.
quite honestly, it's us putting in that, January 1 to December 31st. Sometimes as things happen in life unfolds, you may have to adjust the timeline a little bit, and that's okay
It's
too.
okay.
So if you're, whether it's financial, health, whatever your goal may be, if you're not quite where you thought you would be when you set this goal, if you did it around January, assess, okay, so what's going well, what, maybe why am I having the challenge towards this goal? Is it time? Is it,
Mm-hmm.
if it's a money thing, are there some budget constraints? Did something change? Or is it like, oh, I should be a little more disciplined in this space? Just really understanding, like I said, and again, trying not to go into therapy too much, but a lot of things are, to some extent, there's a little mental aspect to most things. And
Yeah.
so understanding, if if you're not saving as much as you wanted to save, okay, why, where is there room Is it a thing of like, oh, I just didn't really realize there's money here that I could be taking advantage of and
Mm-hmm.
move into savings? Or is it like, ooh, I'm spending a little too much, maybe not, maybe I eat out a little less or whatever. But really looking at the opportunity there and
Mm-hmm.
then shifting or making that commitment to shift the behavior so that you will, be proud of something later
Yeah.
in this year, and you will see like, okay, I kind of had a little bump in the road, but this is what I did. Because that's really what life is about. Is like, okay, you took a licking, and now we're gonna get up, and we're gonna figure this thing out. So that's what I have for the people.
Yeah. And I mean that's really good, and I don't have like very much to add to that. I think just sometimes realizing that it's a bump in the road and not a full stop
Mm-hmm.
it is very important. But the saying is, you took a licking and keep on ticking. Sometimes it's okay to like sit there for a little while. Like, this bump hurt.
Yeah.
And I got to get up and think about the things, and it's okay. um but realize it's a bump. um in life is going to life, and you'll get through it. I think sometimes, when you're on that bump, it can seem like everything, right? um
It doesn't feel
it
temporary.
it does not feel temporary at all.
Mm-hmm.
um but that's when you surround yourself with some good people, and you
Mm-hmm.
surround yourself with a good therapist. And just realizing, like you said, it's the bump. And like you said, analyzing some things. um you know your finances are down, so now you're sad about that. So you're eating out a little bit more, and now you're getting headaches, and now you're dealing with your health issue. Like, it can, but in your assessment, if you're being true to self, you
Mm-hmm.
can acknowledge like what the and find what those steps are. Okay, I am sad, but that don't mean I got to go get Big Mac every day. Like that. I don't have to have 2,000 milligrams of sodium. Like, so there's some things that you
Mm-hmm.
know we can do to pull ourselves when there's a bump, and that just comes with being like very true to self.
Mm-hmm.
And not dealing with, like, I think in mid-year, like, really not doing the blame game. I could be here but for this person, or
Mm-hmm.
this situation. Like, it happened.
Mm-hmm.
What can you do? Because you are your biggest tool.
Yeah.
What can you do
Mm-hmm.
to either, like, first of all, thought, like you said, mentally start thinking a little bit more positively.
Mm-hmm.
And that is hard work.
Yeah.
That is really, really hard work. I think, like they say, for, like, it's so easy to have negative thoughts. Like, actively practicing for every negative thought, saying five positive things. They say that's how many, like, it's not one to one at all.
Yeah.
Because those negative thoughts, like, really, really eat at you. Like, you have to literally say five. I think they even said to 10, but at least five positive things about a situation to, like, start trying to turn it around.
Mm-hmm.
So that applies to your finances. That applies to your relationships. If you try to get in a better relationship, if you single and want to be in a relationship, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and you're out here beating yourself up about being single, and all the things, like the positivities. What is that journey of singleness bringing you at this moment? What can I be doing? It's beautiful to be single right now because I can do X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
So just like turning those thoughts around, to me, it's like super instrumental in
Yeah.
making sure that you meet your goals, even in work. Like, you see Joe over there flying. You know what I'm saying? Like, what certifications can you get to
Mm-hmm.
to help you? What can LinkedIn has a whole learning thing, and what can you go on there and YouTube has free classes.
Oh, YouTube University, you could
you
do
know
learn a lot for
there's some
free.
there's some what can you actively be doing
Mm-hmm.
instead of doing the comparison trap, instead of blaming other people, to better yourself. So I think that's like really important in assessments. And I just say, take it by the ring. Like, you are in charge, and you are strong, and you are in control of these things. You are resilient.
Mm-hmm.
If you are, anywhere, I mean, people are. I was about to give an age to it, but there's some children out here
Mm-hmm.
that have to be resilient at very, very young ages. So just think about like the things that I have gotten through. I have gotten through that thing, and I can get through this one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and dealing with your journeys in years. So that's really what I have in assessments.
Yeah. So yes, keep going. Like we
Yeah.
said, try to find if you have a negative view of where your goals are right now, try to find five positives of what is going well, what you have done, what you have gotten through. Tell the whole story. I'm gonna give
Yeah.
you a nugget from my therapist. That's one of the things that I am currently working on, and I think a lot of us do. So I'll leave you all with this. A lot of times we have this narrative, or
Mhm.
I'll take that of like, oh, I'm in this debt, and we beat ourselves up like I just, you know, in a bad way I could be saving so much more. Okay, all of that cool.
The story I'm telling myself.
But tell the full story. So I
Yeah.
am in this debt, and I have a full-time job,
Mm.
and I am able to pay this debt. And I will be able to pay this debt by taking chunks or creating a plan to make sure that while I'm paying these other bills and expenses I have, I'm putting some attention towards the debt. So it's not just this thing of like, oh, I have it. There's a remedy for it. So
Yeah.
tell the whole story. So add that and after it. Make
Mhm.
sure that you're really giving the full picture for
Yeah.
whatever the goal is and whatever your specific circumstances.
Yeah.
All right. So,
That's
you
good.
guys, that's all we have for today. We hope you are doing well. Take care of yourselves. Make sure you're following us on the things, Divas and Ducats, on Instagram and Facebook. Subscribe, YouTube. We are divaadvice@gmail.com. That is DIVAADVICE @gmail.com. And in the meantime, in between time,
Have a great attitude.
bye.
Bye.